Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of An Unexpected Podcast. My name is Tim, and with me, as always, we have Matt, Mick, Rainier. Unfortunately, Devin couldn't be with us this week, but we're going to try to soldier on without him. On this week's episode, we have a list submitted to us from T. Matt Tiberius, as well as our main topic for this episode, which is going to be how we would go building a Rivendell list. And then finally, we're going to move on to the duel, where Rainier will be going up against Matt. So we're going to move over to the list first. So I'll move over to Matt. Matt, what was this week's list?
This list was a Rohan list, and the predicate here was to use Theodred in the list, and then put some supporting heroes in. And warband number 1 here is Theoden with armored horse, shield, heavy armor, 6 riders of Rohan, and 1 warrior of Rohan with throwing spears and shield. Warband number 2 is Theodred, who this list was built to include, with shield and throwing spears, and 4 riders of Rohan, 1 rider of Rohan with banner, and 1 warrior of Rohan with throwing spear and shield. And warband 3 is Eomer, Marshal of the Riddermark, on a horse with shield and throwing spears. And he has 3 riders of Rohan, 2 riders of Rohan with throwing spears, and 1 warrior of Rohan with throwing spear and shield. And then warband number 4 is Gamling, captain of Rohan on horse with the royal standard of Rohan, 5 riders of Rohan, and 2 warriors of Rohan with bows. And there was a specification here that or at least an explanation here, that the foot warriors of Rohan were included in order to dig up prizes in the heirlooms of ages past and presumably seize the prize scenarios. So this comes out to 30 models, and he's got 4 good hitting heroes here in Theoden, Theodred, Eomer, and, well, Gamling is, I suppose, a bit less of a hitting hero, but obviously he needs to get included because of the royal standard of Rohan that allows all of the other heroes and himself to get extra points of bite once they run out. So a couple thoughts here, and again, some kind of smaller thoughts and some bigger thoughts. The smaller thought is, I don't think you necessarily need or want to include the warriors of Rohan on foot. And I think you're going to find that they tend to slow things down, because this is a list, particularly when you have all riders of Rohan without any royal guard in here. This is a list that pretty much wants to hit and run, and you're going to find you're leaving your warriors behind. I understand the concern of wanting to have somebody who can be on foot to dig up the prize, but if for instance, you drop the second banner, because you've got a rider of Rohan with banner as well as Gamling, and sometimes that's useful so you can have banner effects in 2 different places on the board. I'm not sure that's necessary in this particular list. Since this particular list is centered on Theoden, so all of your heroes you're going to want to be kind of near Theoden in the first place. And you're going to want all your heroes and all your punch to be near Gamling's banner in any case. So you can probably do without the 25 points spent on that extra banner. And if you take that 25 points that you spend on the extra banner and drop all the warriors on foot, you should have enough points to throw 5 additional riders, or maybe even if you twiddle around with some of the throwing spear points, maybe 6 outriders into this list, which would keep your model count up at 29 or 30 in any case, and allows you to be all mounted, so nothing's going to tie you down. And of course, if you need to dig something up, what you do then is you send one of your riders or your outriders up, dismount him, dig up the prize, and then have somebody else ride up next to him, take the prize the next turn from the guy who dismounted, and move on from there. And I think you'll find that's actually a better strategy in heirlooms of ages past, because if you're going to rely on your guys on foot to wander around and pick up and pick stuff up, then it's going to take a while for them to get there. You're much better off just kind of moving your riders around. So that would be my small tweak. I guess my bigger tweak would be to consider the Theoden's Guard Legendary Legion, which really kind of highlights, or I'm sorry, Theodred's Guard Legendary Legion, which really kind of highlights Theodred. Turns us into a bit of a different list because there are different heroes that are involved, but something just to think about.
I think for heirlooms, are you allowed to hand the heirloom off to another model?
Oh no, yeah, you're right.
No, you're not.
Yeah, you're not. So I'm thinking seize the prize.
Yeah.
The rule is still the same. I mean, you're going to end up dismounting a guy on top of you can dismount a guy on top of the heirloom, and then you're going to have a guy on foot running around with it. But you're no worse off than you were if you just had a guy on foot to begin with who waddles up there at 6 inches a turn.
So, Rainier, do you have any different thoughts from what Matt was saying, or do you kind of agree with what he was thinking?
Oh, I totally agree with what Matt's saying, and I get the heirloom thing with a lot of people do is they'll put the heirloom 6 inches away from the board and they'll just run an infantryman to try to pick it up. But I think what Matt's saying makes more sense because that way your cav can even go for an heirloom that's like 10 inches off the board or something that your opponent places. And it doesn't take much out of your list to dismount one of your riders, and then even keep them to have the bow. So you got a bow guy that potentially isn't doing much. But I'd also suggest, like what Matt said, throw some outriders in there. But also you can get a Royal Guard for 1 point more from the riders. And they have a potential fight 5, is it, guys?
Yeah.
With the Legion. So, I toss in, you can get rid of one of the warriors with throwing spears and upgrade like 8 of those riders into Royal Guards. But I don't think you need that many, but just enough to throw around King Theoden. You can get a good fight 5 cohort. But that's probably all my advice. I really like the Eomer Theoden kind of triple threat, just rogue combating through stuff, and I like it.
Mick, I want to get your opinions on this, but I want to ask you one question real quick. Do you find, and I know most people have the opinion that Riders of Rohan is just the way to go because they're a cavalry-based army, that's their rule, that's kind of their thing. Do you find that any of these warriors have a purpose on foot, or is it just something that Rohan really shouldn't do?
No, I don't really see any point in Warriors on foot in this particular list. I fully agree with Matt and Rainier, and that's like I just wouldn't have them at all in this scenario. I'm actually thinking, so you either upgrade them into Rohan Outriders or Riders by dropping a banner, or you drop a banner, maybe drop all of your warriors and even have another hero like maybe Eowyn. Or something like Deerwine, I think it was. Basically, like I don't really see much of a difference between you having 25 or 30 models here, because at the end of the day, you're still shooting with, let's say, 21, 22 bows or something like that, and just having another hero might be better. But if you don't go the hero route, then you definitely have to drop the warriors and then upgrade something else into either bringing more riders or bringing a Royal Guard or Outriders. And this whole idea with digging up prizes for heirlooms, it's a bit weird in that you don't really know, first of all, where you're going to come on, and like you don't really want to be sending your 6-inch moving warriors after the prize on the other side of the board. Chances are you're going to be going there with your riders anyway, so you will be dismounting your models anyway, whether you want it or not. Otherwise, you're sort of stuck with just having, let's say, 5 or 6 models that have to run through the entire board, and at that point, you're sort of losing the benefit of actually having cavalry.
If you really want to do foot, I think the way to do it is Theodred's Guard with this. If you really want to run some foot figures, that has the special rule that allows the throwing spears to count as ordinary spears, so you can fight in ranks, which is, I think, makes Rohan on foot work a lot better than it does otherwise.
Now,
but otherwise, just go with all mounted, I think.
Yeah.
So he says he included a few infantry to dig up for heirlooms. So I'm assuming, and please let us know in the comments, T-Matt, if this was not your intention. I'm assuming he's saying if in case he comes up against heirlooms, if he was preparing for a tournament kind of a situation where he might get that scenario and wants that versatility. So I believe he's building this kind of like in case he was going to a tournament and he wants to do all of this. Do you guys believe, taking your advice that you've given him, that he could win a tournament with this list? Or do you think it's just one of those armies that's hard to?
It all depends on the player, to be honest.
Also, there's the thing that if, let's say, you're using the new book, then you have 18 scenarios. In a tournament, in a one-day tournament, you're going to play, 3 or 4 games. In a 2-day tournament, you're going to play 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 if it's a like a very big, very long tournament. But like, I wouldn't necessarily be building a list thinking, okay, I need these models for that specific scenario, which like in 60% of the tournaments, it's not even going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it does come up also in Seize the Prize. Other than Seize the Prize and Heirlooms, are there any other scenarios where you get stuff out of the ground?
But the thing is, in Seize the Prize, all you have to do is just dismount one model.
Right.
You don't really have to do it with like in all these different places. And in Seize the Prize, you're getting there first with your cavalry anyway. Like your infantry is still gonna be staying back. I mean, even though they're moving fast forward, they will still be far behind your cavalry.
No, I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah, I get that. I'm just trying to figure out whether there's anything else he's concerned about other than just Heirlooms, the one scenario out of 18. Seize the Prize is another one where you dig something up, although as you point out, there's only one thing you have to dig up, so you generally need to dismount only one guy. I'm just wondering, I can't think of any other scenarios out of the 18 where that's required other than Seize the Prize and Heirlooms.
No, neither actually.
So my question is, so he's got 4 heroes here. Would you reduce one hero and try to add more troops to this list, or do you like all 4 heroes and would stick, like you said, maybe you have reduced numbers, but you just got 4 decent heroes, so you'd stick with that?
Well, if anything, gambling gets better the more heroes you have. So I wouldn't really be dropping any heroes. If anything, I would maybe consider another one. But that really depends on how comfortable you are with playing a smaller list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, typically with a Rohan list, the first guy you always get is Theoden. The second person you always get is Dernhelm. The second person you always get is Gambling. The third person you always get is Dernhelm. And then the fourth person you tend to get is Aemir, points allowing. And what he's essentially done is substituted Theodred for Dernhelm in that model because he wants to play with Theodred, which is okay. I mean, Theodred is a pretty powerful hero. He just comes, and I think we've talked about this on a past podcast. I mean, he comes with a significant downside in that he always has to charge, which means a lot of times you're going to be walling him off so that he doesn't charge. Otherwise, he's going to get kind of dragged forward and killed on his own a lot. So you got to keep that in mind when you're doing it. But I mean, a 4-hero Rohan army with a bunch of figures is definitely, it's one of the basic paradigms to run with this with all riders, or I'm sorry, with all mounted figures. And I don't think that's either too few or too many. You can definitely run this list at 800 points with more heroes and less figures, but I think probably four heroes and a bunch of figures is one of the basic ways to go with this list.
Yeah. Can I just double check? The Eowyn and Pippin, was that Deerwine or Dernhelm? That's Dernhelm. Oh yeah, so earlier on I meant Dernhelm, not Deerwine.
Yeah, I mean Dernhelm is she's the other 3-attack hero.
Yeah, that's right.
And he also comes with the ability to ride around next to Gambling and call heroics with Pippin, and then Pippin continually regains his might. So as long as she's near Gambling, she's kind of an auto might generator.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have a quick correction of what I said too. Does Theodred break? He should break the Legion rule, right? So the Warriors will only be fight 3.
Well, so Theoden's bonus is not keyed to the lead. So
that's Riders of Rohan bonus for 5/4.
Oh, Riders of Rohan Force. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sounds good. So yeah, I would definitely again bring a couple of the Royal Guard. They have Bodyguard also for 1 point.
Yeah.
5 Bodyguard at 1 point. Yeah.
Where this does impact legions is if you're taking Theodred's Guard, Theodred then counts as Theoden for purposes of that rule. So if you take Theodred's Guard, Theodred becomes he must be the leader, but he's the one who gives the +1 fight value bonus to riders and Royal Guard and stuff on horse.
So I'm going to bring up what Rainier said a little bit. So in a list like this, where you're going to have relatively small numbers, is it better to go with Riders of Rohan with the bows and the defense 5, or would you rather take something like a Royal Guard where they're defense 6, their bodyguard? I think they go up to fight 5 on the charge. Which of those attracts would you be happier with in this kind of a list? Would you rather go more, or would you do like a mix of between the two?
Yeah, that's the sort of question that has been around since basically day one of the release of the new rules. I would tend to go with riders just because of the bows, but I like the Royal Guard as well, especially since they can potentially go to fight 5.
Now, I know it's kind of personal preference, and it depends on what kind of game style you want to play. Do you want to rush forward and try to kill things? Do you want to try to sit back a little bit? But I guess what my question was is, based on your opinion, what seems to be the better option based on this list? Do you feel like it's better to have, maybe a couple of Royal Guard in there and then mostly riders, or is it better to have, mostly Royal Guard because you're low numbers, so you want to keep that defense 6? And I apologize, do they have armored horses as well, or is it just regular horses?
You don't have armored horses.
Okay, so regular horses. So, they might get shot at, of course, but that's the goal is, if you can't outshoot somebody, just run in as quickly as possible. And, of course, that without them being on horses, they get there quickly. So Rainier, I'll ask you, what do you think? How would you mix up the Warriors? Would you do mostly riders? Would you do mostly Royal Guard? Would you do a mix? What are you thinking?
I like the idea of shooting quite a lot. Like, I agree with Mick. I would mix in Outriders, of course, because they keep the bow, and I'd probably throw in, for my style, like 4 to 5 Royal Guard, just to charge the terrifying things you need to charge. Maybe a Fell Beast is in your back line, you get priority. Charge it with a fight 5 Royal Guard. But yeah, I wouldn't spam it. I've seen people who spam Royal Guards, and it really takes the army's versatility away, in my opinion. You all of a sudden become like a beat stick. Let's just charge after you and heroic strike and heroic combat and kill stuff. So I like the idea, like Mick said, like a lot of warriors, because it makes your army versatile. You can shoot in this game. You come across an army with no shooting, you just kite them all day, or I like that.
Matt, what were your thoughts?
So when I run this, because this is a list I run fairly often, I generally run between 1/4 and 1/3 Royal Guard, depending on kind of how many other figures depending on what my kind of hero to figure ratio is. But 5 or 6 tends to work pretty well because, as the other guys pointed out, you want to have the capability to shoot at range to draw the other guy towards you. There are times when you really don't want to have a cavalry army that has to charge the enemy, because if the enemy is in a scenario where he can just kind of occupy a good defensive position, maybe with some terrain or anchored flanks or a choke point, the all Royal Guard option can run into some problems.
Yeah, it's actually funny with if you were to compare it to something like Rivendell Knights, the army, even though it's great at charging and fighting, it still wants to shoot primarily. So same sort of with Rohan. You kind of want to abuse the shooting as much as you can, and then only charge at the very end if there's really no other option.
Okay. Anybody have any final thoughts?
Oh yeah, and there's I guess the other benefit is since you get the free heroic moves effectively through the banner, you can actually be moving on with free heroic marches pretty much all the time. And so you're moving like 7.5 and shooting, whilst the other guy is moving 6 and still failing to catch you. So yeah, there's far more possibilities with riders than with guards.
Just out of curiosity, does anybody else think that a second banner is warranted in this list? At 800 points?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't really think
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think I'd rather use those points towards more warriors.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, there's some value to having a second banner in this list, but I think that's when you start to get up around 1,000 points or so. My son and I just played like a 1,500 point Charge of the Rohirrim game where it was 1,500 points of Rohan versus 1,500 points of the Army of Gothmog Legendary Legion. And at that point, it was useful to have a second banner because the battle line was so long that you really wanted that banner effect to accompany a hero someplace else. But I don't think at 800 points it's worth it.
Okay. So I think our general consensus is to go with all riders instead of foot warriors. Consider taking the Legendary Legion if possible, and to maybe drop the banner and add some more warriors. T-Matt, please let us know what you think of our thoughts in the comment section below. And anybody else who has a list, please let us know what your list is in the comment section below so we can review it in future episodes. We're going to move on to the main topic of today, which is going to be Rivendell and how we would build that. All right, so we're going to move into the main topic for today, and that is going to be Rivendell and how we would build it. I'm personally excited about this part because I always really like Rivendell. I think they're a really fun thing that you don't see a ton. It's not to say you don't see them, but they're not as seen as often. So what I'm going to ask is, when building a list for you guys, what do you think is the best points values for Rivendell? Do you have like a certain points value where like 600 points, that's a sweet spot for Rivendell, 800 points? What do you guys think about points values for Rivendell?
Well, generally, models are quite expensive, so if you really want your big heroes and a lot of warriors, then really you kind of want to be building something for like 700, 800, even 1,000 point lists. At smaller levels, there's always that major struggle of who do I take and how many models am I actually able to slot in. Especially if you're looking for any of the big heroes like Gilgalad or Elrond, then at 500 points, let's say you take one of them, then you take a hero of valor, a hero of fortitude, and then you sort of almost filling up two warbands. So it's always like a difficult situation of what you have to discard. On the higher points, you're actually able to play whatever you want to play, really.
Yeah, I'd agree with Mick. I haven't played Rivendell competitively, but I play it for fun, usually at comic book shops. And I find I enjoy them a lot better at higher points because just the same thing. You have more toys, and the toys are expensive. All the heroes are expensive.
I mean, I guess the flip side is I always get the feeling that if I'm playing Rivendell, at least if I'm playing Rivendell pure without allies, you also reach a points level that's too high, where you end up kind of getting swarmed by the other side because your base models are so expensive. You reach a point where you're just outnumbered to such an extent if the points get too high that you're kind of trying to dig yourself out of a hole. I almost think that the sweet spot for this list is 700 points, where you can that's enough points to get one of the big heroes, and then you get your Círdan, and then you get like another captain to add on, and then you get enough guys to make a run of it. And then when you start getting up to like 800 points or 1,000 points, that's when you really start to feel the outnumbering deficit get you. But one of the ways to solve this is by allying, and I think one of the ways you can run this list is to have kind of a core of elves and then you ally in somebody else like Arnor to get your numbers. And I think that becomes a viable strategy at higher points levels, is if you want to add in somebody who has cheaper base warriors like Arnor or Numenor or something like that. That's the way to kind of take it up to 800 points to 1,000.
Yeah, or even if you want to ally something like Lake Town, just because it gives you significantly higher numbers, and that's really
you want to throw Theme completely out the window. Yeah, you can ally him.
Yeah. I mean, that was a question.
Well, actually, that'll lead on to my next question: is would you ever ally Rivendell, and if so, who to?
Lake Town.
Goblin Town.
Goblin Town.
If you want numbers, call Goblin Town. No, I like the idea of Numenor. Like when I play elves, I feel like they don't kill stuff that well, and Numenor complements that so well with the strength 4 basic warriors that come quite cheap for being strength 4, and then like the idea that allying in Isildur or Elendil. Like I don't know, I think Numenor. Thank goodness for theme. Like it's the good way to go. I don't know.
Yeah, Numenor is a really good way to go, and it's an army list that I end up playing a lot. Is Rivendell and Numenor. Arnor is another good one. It's not a green alliance, so you lose your army bonus, but it certainly is themed. There was a joint Arnor Rivendell army led by Glorfindel running around during the wars against the Witch King. And that's another good way to get in, because I think Arnor really has some very cheap, very good warriors. And the reason that their warriors are cheap is because their courage is low, but you ally in Círdan, and that solves the courage problem. So that's another good way to ally. And the other thing to do is allying in folks from the White Council who are green with this list. And I think allying in Galadriel, Lady of Light, and we can talk through different ways to kind of set up a list, but she's another kind of good way to get some cost-benefit enhancements into this list.
Yeah, the fun thing is Rivendell's yellow with basically everything from Lord of the Rings range. So I've even seen them allied with hobbits, where you have a whole ton of hobbits and like a back range of like elf spears, and all of a sudden you have fight 5 hobbits going on. So I don't know, they're a good faction.
Do you guys consider their army bonus worth keeping? Is it worth it?
Well, yes. Obviously if you're not allying, then obviously you want it and you want to abuse it as much as you can. But it's just one of those things that it sort of depends on how you're building your list, because the models cannot move if they are getting the bonus, right? So it's only really good when, let's say, your army is a Rivendell Knights list, because you're able to stay somewhere, you're able to shoot, reroll all of your shots, then do it again, and then let's say move 10. But if you're just playing with a normal Rivendell list, then I wouldn't really necessarily worry that much about the bonus. Like, I think certain allies are worth more than the bonus, mainly because it just prevents you from moving when using it.
Okay. Do you guys feel that if you took a pure Rivendell list, you could win a tournament with that? Is it competitive enough to win a whole tournament? Like if I asked you 3 to take a pure Rivendell list, could you win a tournament with it, do you think?
Well, it depends how good the opposition is.
Mm-hmm.
If they're all better than us, then probably not.
Well, it also depends a lot on which scenarios you get, because if you're taking a pure Rivendell list, you're taking a list that has a small number of models in it, and there are a bunch of scenarios now where that is a pretty significant disadvantage.
Yeah, it favors more horde.
Yeah, if you pulled the right scenarios, I mean, obviously, if you got something like To the Death, Lords of Battle, and say maybe Contest of Champions or something like that, you'd have a good shot of taking the tournament. If you end up with say, domination,
Reconnoiter.
yeah, reconnoiter. And I'm trying to remember what there's a couple of the new scenarios. The one where you're destroying the supplies, that could be a problem for this list.
So
sorry. The other thing I guess is it depends sort of on your expected metagame, because let's say your fight 5 is really useless against things like Goblin Town, Moria, any sort of like fight 3 things. But if your local meta is, let's say, mostly armies which are things like Gondor, or generally fight 4-ish or fight 5 as well, then your Rivendell becomes better, because there's not going to be that many swarms, and your heroes are generally going to be better than theirs. So I had a situation like 2 or 3 years back where I took a Rivendell list into a 90% tournament where it was still in the previous edition, so everyone was using Felbeast. And I knew, okay, well, if I bring Rivendell, then Ring Wraiths and Felbeast are not very good against me. So then I must have played, I think, about against maybe like 10 Felbeasts over six rounds, and those games became much, much easier. So yeah, it will really depend on your local meta.
Mm-hmm. So one model, I know he has some restrictions around him, Gilgalad. Is he worth taking? And when you take him, is he worth doing 18 fight 6 guys?
I think he's worth taking by far, but I wouldn't go 18 fight 6 guys. I think at the most I'd go maybe 6. But
so he's more of like a hero that has the ability to give you fight 6 kind of a thing.
Yeah, because you want to sprinkle them in, kind of like people that take Mirkwood. They're not going to do Mirkwood guard and spam. It doesn't quite make sense. You need that fight 6 against heroes and maybe other elves here and there or something. But again, back to what someone said, like you come against Goblin Town or fight 3 and you're like, oh sweet, I'm fight 6, but who really cares? Like I sunk all my points into that when I could have done it in something better.
Mm-hmm. So
Gilgalad's also another kind of meta-dependent figure, because if there's no magic around where you play, then Gilgalad's a good guy to take. If there's if you're going to be running into a lot of wizards and ring wraiths, you can sink a lot of points into Gilgalad and have him be transfixed for the entire game, because he's only got the 3 will, and once those 3 will are gone, he's vulnerable. I mean, there are ways you can kind of deal with that, but unfortunately, with the ally restrictions that come with him, it makes it harder. He may actually be somebody that you're thinking about doing. You go ahead and do an impossible alliance and throw Galadriel, Lady of Light, in to cast Fortify Spirit on him, and then he's becomes a really good hero if he can just continually resist magic. Otherwise you can sink a lot of points into Gilgalad and not get anything out of him.
I mean, it's a pretty weird thing where if you're trying to make a new mana list which is led by Elendil and Gilgalad, you're like, okay, well, Elendil is great, but then Gilgalad just gets stuck by Ringwraith for most of the game, and then you end up thinking, well, I might as well just have Elendil and Glorfindel, because at least then I don't care about magic.
Well, or you have Elendil kill the Ringwraith, and then Gilgalad goes and kills him.
You could do that, yeah.
So do you guys have a problem with that issue where, if you have Elendil and Glorfindel, like you said, he has to pick between 2 of them, but Glorfindel with his fight 9, he's kind of always like the main target that people are going to be going after. So it's almost like he's neutralized to an extent.
You're talking about Gilgalad? Gilgalad is fighting.
What did I say? I apologize. Did I say Glorfindel?
You did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I apologize. Yeah, Gilgalad. I apologize. Yes, I apologize. I meant to say Gilgalad. So with Gilgalad having fight 9, and his +1 to wound, his defense 8, if you take the shield, he can be mounted. I mean, he's obviously one of the best heroes in the game. Is that kind of like a concern for you guys, taking him, knowing that, like, if you don't have anything to stop the opposing person's magic, he's almost going to get stuck out of the game and you spend all those points on him?
Well, that's the thing. Like, your opponent is going to have, let's say, a Ringwraith that costs 90, and then your Gilgalad does nothing for like 5 turns. By by the time their will runs out, the game may have ended by now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you kind of have to, in my opinion, have something that balances Gilgalad out, something that can do damage when he's not doing anything, such as like why Numenor is so dangerous, because having Elendil tagged with Gilgalad, Elendil's over here heroic combating for free and just destroying things with his resistance to magic. So I don't know. In my opinion, you have to have something that balances it out.
I mean, the other issue here is that it's hard to imagine a scenario where you would want Gilgalad where Glorfindel would not be the better option. Mm-hmm. Since Glorfindel is, what is he, 25 points cheaper. And, well, if you get the Armor of Gondolin, he's 10 points cheaper, but that Armor of Gondolin gives him the 2 free resist die rolls. So he's the guy you use in the magic meta where he can just kind of shrug off spells that are thrown at him. He's cheaper. He's fight 7 instead of fight 9. And in about 95% of cases, fight 7 is good enough. It's really kind of a rare situation when you're like, oh, I'm glad I've got fight 9 instead of fight 7.
And even Glorfindel also gets a 12-inch horse that can go through woodland. Yeah. And
he can't be hurled or rended or any of that other fun stuff. And otherwise, he doesn't have blood and glory, so he doesn't regain might. But still, he's kind of the, if you're looking at Gilgalad and Glorfindel and trying to choose between them in a situation where you don't have the points to take both, it's really hard not to go with Glorfindel.
So I'm going to propose this because I think we can't talk about Rivendell without including, these 2 members of the Rivendell list. So for about the same points as Glorfindel, would you rather have the twins or Glorfindel? It's a tough one because Glorfindel is obviously, he's got the perfect stat line. You can't hurl, barge, rend. He's got fight 7, of course. He's a very, very good hero. But is the 3 extra might plus the ability to have that 2 hero kind of concept, is that better, or is Glorfindel worth having over them?
So in lower points, I would go with the twins. But in higher points, they're just too fragile. Like any fight against any other hero that they go into, one of them might just randomly die, and then the other one just runs off somewhere. Whilst Glorfindel, he's very difficult to kill. He's gonna be defense 7 with more attacks, with higher fight, 3 wounds, 3 fights. So even if you go against like the biggest enemy heroes, he's generally staying around for much longer. And also the 3 extra might points are going to be more useful in smaller lists as well, where you can actually put the might around. Whilst in higher points lists, you probably have another big hero anyway. And yeah, in smaller points lists, again, fight 6 and 3 attacks charging on a horse, or 3 attacks on foot, are generally enough against most things.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys agree with that?
I don't. Just when I play them, I don't know why, but I just always go the twins instead of Glorfindel. I think Glorfindel fits a perfect leader. He's not going to die. He's very hard to wound, and he's resistant to basically everything. But when it comes to playing Rivendell, whenever I bring Glorfindel, I feel like he doesn't kill stuff that well. He's still fight 4 with only 3 might, and if you come across like a dwarf army,
strength 4.
Oh no, sorry, strength 4, sorry. Yeah, fight 4. Oh, yeah, choose Glorfindel, fight 4. He's a beast. Corsair beats him. No, but I've seen him played, and I've played him, and I come against like a basic dwarf guy with shield, like we talked about in previous episodes, who's defense 7, and like he can't kill stuff that's defense 7. So in that aspect, I kind of like the twins better because they're strength 4 as well. But I don't know. I feel like they kill troops a lot better. Plus, you can roll strength.
So they also can't kill defense 7, but it's okay.
Yeah, well, there's two of them. There's two of them. There's two of them.
Now,
And let's be honest too. Like I'm a little biased because the models look amazing. So
now, Rainier, I'm going to ask you: does Lord of West have any impact on your choice with Glorfindel?
Lord of West.
Oh yeah, you're basically always rolling 4 dice to win.
And 4 dice to win.
That is kind of hard.
And when you're charging, it's 5 dice to win.
Yeah.
And if you're a banner nearby, it's 6 dice to win.
And
that's why he's a perfect. That's he's a perfect leader in a way.
And you can reroll it too.
Yeah.
I
guess
if you won't come out and you charged.
I mean, I'm the exact opposite of Rainier in this. I always end up choosing Glorfindel over the twins. I mean, if you get the twins, their heavy armor and their horses, which you have to, they're 190 points. So they end up being, compared to Glorfindel, who's 170. So Glorfindel fully kitted out is 170. The twins with horses and heavy armor are 190. So the twins are more expensive. And they also only have 2 attacks as opposed to 3. And I'd rather have those 3 attacks with Lord of the West backed up by magic proofing than Elladan and Elrohir for 20 more points.
Actually, there's not a downside to twins. I had a game once where my opponent's Shagrat killed one of the twins. So then the other one had to run into Shagrat and then was forced to call a Heroic Challenge. And Heroic Challenge is literally the worst thing that you could do ever.
Shagrat probably just, what did you just Heroic Strike with him and kill him?
Yeah, so then I was like, well, I actually would like to do something else. No, you have to do a challenge.
Yeah, Shagrat's what a noob, calling a Heroic Challenge.
Yeah, and so instead of actually killing things, I just end up spending time fighting Shagrat, and effectively both heroes were out of the game.
That is a problem. Is once one of the twins go down, oftentimes the other twin's about to go down too.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to move on to the penultimate question. So everybody seems to like Círdan in the new rules, of course, because he's got Blinding Light. He's got a free point of will every turn. But obviously with them mentioning that he's a minor hero now, would you rather have, like Matt mentioned in the earlier, would you rather have Lady of Light for 50 points more that can't lead troops? Or do you take Círdan because he's part of the list, can lead 6 troops? He's got the blinding, because I think most people will take advantage of Blinding Light if they have the ability to it, especially at higher points. So what do you guys think? Would you go with a White Council member like Lady of Light, or do you stick with your Círdan? And keeping in mind that if you then took the twins with Lady of Light, then they become a lot more survivable at that point, because then you have 2 free die to resist spells.
Quick question: does she have Aura of Dismay as well?
She has like a -1 to courage, but not Aura of Dismay.
Yeah.
She can bring back I believe it's wound or fate points, if I'm correct.
No, she has
Fortify Spirit and Banish.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of the other. I'm thinking of the other Galadriel.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she can banish and she can Fortify Spirit, but then she's also 3 attacks at fight or no -1 to win the fight. So she's 3 attacks, strength 4, fight 6. So I'm not saying you want to get her in combat all that much, but she can really do some damage to some troops. So what do you guys think?
I mean, why wouldn't you just have both?
I mean, you could do both.
Unless you really don't have any points, you could just have both.
Does it seem kind of redundant to have 2?
You're Rivendell. You never have enough points.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is redundant to have both. I think you can do it either way. I mean, Círdan's a support guy. He has to sit back behind the lines. He casts his Aura of Dismay. He can cast Enchanted Blades on Glorfindel or whoever your hero is. Whereas Galadriel is going to be, more fighting. I think the time to use Galadriel rather than Círdan is if you need that Fortify Spirit. if your beat stick hero in the Rivendell list is going to be Glorfindel, I don't think you bother with Lady of Light because he comes with Fortify Spirit baked in. If your beat stick hero is going to be somebody like the twins who don't have Fortify Spirit, then I think you may be better off going with Galadriel. Even if you got to put her in with Gilgalad and make it a Red Alliance. I think that's really the decision point, is whether or not you think you need that Fortify Spirit or not.
I would say, actually, additionally, one of the big decision points you have to make is she is a hero of legend. So do you want her to be your army leader? So if, let's say, you're taking twins and something else, or even if you're taking Glorfindel as your Rivendell guy, then Galadriel becomes the army leader, and you don't necessarily always want a defense 3 hero to be your general.
Does Lady of Light have heroic defense though?
Let's check.
Because I'll be honest with you, if Lady of Light has heroic defense, I'm not too worried about her being the general, because I mean, rolling those natural 6s is such an annoyance, and even if you get ganged up, the likelihood of somebody rolling 6 6s, or even in 2 turns 3 6s, I think it's a little unlikely to roll that many natural.
Well, that would be nice, but she doesn't.
She doesn't?
No.
Oh, she doesn't.
She's not a hero of legend.
Oh, she's not a hero.
Yeah. Sorry. She's a hero of valor. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Well, that changes things. So if you're taking Glorfindel, well then, if you're taking Glorfindel, you don't necessarily need her anyway, because you already have the magic resistance. But if you're taking twins, then it's sort of a consideration of do you risk her being your leader?
Mm-hmm. What, Rainier, do you think Círdan or Galadriel? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I really like Hour of Dismay, to be honest. And I think it's just as powerful as Blinding Light, if in some points more powerful. And I say that because I don't know about world meta, but American meta, you see a lot of these evil hordes popping up. And I think it'll just like mess something up like Goblin Town, or mess something up like the Corsairs of Umbar, besides the fearless ones. Like it'll just mess up some of these armies that I see popping up.
Not to mention all the armies now that aren't taking shamans anymore, because they're so concerned about A, might points, and B, marches, and with them not getting the 5-up resave, a lot of people are just kind of like, yeah, the Fury's nice, but maybe I'd rather have a different hero. So I'm not saying you don't see shamans, but you definitely don't see them nearly as much as we used to, where they were almost
exactly.
an auto-include.
Yeah, exactly. That said, though, I see the point of taking Galadriel. I mean, you still come across a lot of Agmar armies, you come across a lot of Mordor armies, and her ability to just like wound a ring wraith or have the fear of wounding a ring wraith is so good. So I don't know. I think it depends on the point range. If I had a larger point army, I'd go Galadriel. Smaller one, I'd go Círdan.
All right. Also something that you would take if you were going the Rivendell Knights route, because we haven't talked about Elrond yet.
Yes, I was just about to move on to Elrond. So, last question for today. With Elrond, does he beat out someone like Glorfindel, or do you really only include him in a Rivendell Knights list?
Probably just a Rivendell Knights list.
Do you guys have that same opinion? Is he really just for Rivendell Knights, or do you use him in foot troops?
He's for Rivendell Knights.
Yeah, I agree on that too.
Okay, so he has one purpose, and that's pretty much it for you guys. Okay.
But what do you guys think of Gildor and Lindor, though?
Yeah, good heroes. Do they just get overshadowed by everybody else, like your Círdans, your Aristors, all that kind of thing?
Well, Lindir you only take if you're taking Elrond, and you have enough points, because the reason you have Lindir in your list is to get the extra free will point for Elrond. His Song of Elbereth is nice, but really, he's an add-on to Elrond. Gildor, I don't know. Gildor, I have trouble trying to figure out how to fit him into a list, because he seems to be one of these guys that's not good enough. He's not good enough at anything to justify his points inclusion. So he's kind of somebody you put in for theme, but
Is it worth it though to take cheaper elves with him, being able to take the wood elves? Is lowering your cost of numbers, but increasing, possibly the ability,
because you have to upgrade
They're
them
not really
to
cheaper.
Noldor elves, right?
Yeah.
Which will be 1+. He has the ability to bring wood elves, but you do still have to upgrade him. I've toyed with the idea in many lists just because he's a cool and a fun theme, but he just works in a way like a foot mouth of Sauron, and in a way that elves don't need that as much as Mordor needs that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, it's the other thing is you don't really want defense 3 models in an army that's already small, and models that cost pretty much the same as your defense 6 models. So you're getting a 2-inch extra move for no real benefit otherwise.
I think the times where you use Gildor is if you're in a meta where there's a lot of terrain on the board and like a lot of woods on the board. And then I think he's kind of a useful add-on to say, all right, this is his warband of, a bunch of guys with elven cloaks and bows. And they basically go and infest the woods terrain piece somewhere and use it as a fortress to shoot out of it. Or they sneak around through the terrain to try and get at the board or get to the terrain piece or get to the objective that's in the middle of the woods.
If you're doing that, wouldn't you just rather ally someone like Haldir and just someone else? Because then at least you get the additional might points.
heroic strike as well.
Heroic strike.
Well, it depends what you're using Gildor for. If Gildor's like running around and sneaking, he's the guy that can call a march, and he's the guy that can kind of hide in the woods and throw transfixes at him, or I'm sorry, immobilizes at him.
One model that I don't know if you guys think gets overshadowed, but he has a pretty good profile as Aristotle. Do you guys find the need to use Aristotle, or is he just not as good to you guys? Because in the new edition, they gave him an extra point of might. They did take away, I believe, a point of fate, but him having that extra might is huge now. And then with him, I believe he's strength 4, 2 attacks, rerolling to wound. I mean, if you trap something, you have 4 dice rerolling to wound. And with him having fight 6 and the rerolling to wound throwing weapons as well, that's a huge thing for just killing basic troops as well. What do you guys think of Aristotle?
So Aristotle is a good foot hero. And if you're going to have a foot-based army and you've already got Círdan and you've already got kind of your hitter in Glorfindel or somebody else, then you may want to consider Aristotle as your next guy since he's got strikes. The only downside of him is he doesn't have march. So I'm always in a situation looking at Aristotle going, well, look, I've got the points for a captain or I've got the points for Aristotle, and then I got to decide how badly I want that march depending on what the situation is.
And I'll bring up one more question, and then we'll move on to the next topic. With Rivendell, anytime I've ever tried to write a list, I notice that if you don't have the twins, you're really lacking on might. How do you guys feel about the might situation with Rivendell and how to really take advantage? Because if you took Círdan, I believe he has 1 point of might. If you took a normal, 2 might hero like Aristotle, there's 3 might, and then Glorfindel, you have 6 might, but you're probably using that closer to 800 points. So you only have 6 might at 800 points. So how do you guys deal with the lack of might in Rivendell, would you think?
It's not as much of a problem as you would think in a Rivendell list, because most times you'll come across an opponent who, of course, will have more might, but they're going to have to heroic strike to just kill your basic elves sometimes. And then your elf heroes are usually defense 7 or higher if you have Gilgalad. So you could even go around where an opponent heroic strikes, and you're like, yeah, I don't want a heroic strike. I'll survive it if you beat it. And if we tie, I have an elven blade and we'll probably beat you. So I don't know. You guys could probably I don't know what you guys think, but I would say it's not as much of a problem as you would think.
I mean, there's another thing with Círdan in that if you do have your Aura of Dismay, you don't really want to be calling your heroic moves anyway. You just want to get your opponent to try to charge you, fail with half their army, and then pick off good combats afterwards. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, the only time where it really becomes important is if you're doing the Elrond-based army. You want to make sure you get that charge, and then I think you might. Yeah, that's a good time actually to use the twins. Is along with Elrond if you have the points for it. Is Elrond and the twins, and then a bunch of Rivendell knights just to get 9 points of might, so you can call those heroic moves when you need to.
There is that, although sometimes you might prefer allying someone like Aragorn for 3 marches, or allying Galadriel for protection from bowfire. So again, you're sort of looking at 6 might anyway.
So, do you really want Galadriel in that list since she's on foot?
Well, she is on foot, but she doesn't really have that much downsides to her. She helps to protect Elrond with I guess magic, and she ensures that if you come up against something like, let's say, Riders of Rohan or Harad, you're actually definitely winning the shootout war. And also the Rivendell Knights list, even though it's fast and it likes to move, you only really get the benefit of the army bonus of the rerolls if you're stationary. So it kind of depends on how you're playing it. But I've seen a lot of good players play things where they just stand for as long as they can, shoot, and then they move, and then maybe move again, and then stand again and shoot.
Are you better off maybe though with Gandalf in the lists? Because I mean, he casts the blinding light. He's got the horse, and then he's also got a sorcerer's blast. So if that's what if you're doing a standoff and kill type scenario, he's got something he can do at range as well.
He does, but then he costs like 2 extra knights, and you don't really have very many knights in the first place.
Fair enough.
All right. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of Rivendell and how you would build the list. We're going to move on to the main topic we're going to move on to the duel, where Matt will be going up against Rainier. So we're going to move over to that now. All right, and now we're going to move into the duel. So here on the duel, basically what we do is we have 2 contestants on the podcast. We'll go up against each other in a hypothetical battle. And what will happen is I give them 3 random scenarios. The 3 random scenarios I gave them for this week are Lords of Battle, Contest of Champions, and Reconnoiter. I have not told them any of the scenario that we'll be using. We will then give them a live reaction of the board that they'll be playing on, and then they will tell you what armies they're taking. So we're going to move into the scenario first. So the scenario I have chosen out of Lords of Battle, Contest of Champions, and Reconnoiter is Reconnoiter.
Oh! Again, Tim? Again? We did this the other week.
Well, I mean, you got to keep it fresh, guys. I mean, you can't make people think that just because we've done a scenario, you can't pull up again.
I'm glad you're having the same reaction, Rainier, because maybe I'm still in it at this point.
Oh, buddy, you're going to be in it really well.
All right, so that's their reaction. So now I'm going to show them the board real quick, and we'll get their reactions to that. So what is you guys' reaction to the board based on the scenario and what armies you guys have? We'll get to the armies in a second. So what do you guys think about the board?
I can definitely work with this.
Rainier?
I think I can work with this too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite, there's like a lot of, for those who can't see, there's scattered terrain, a few buildings, a big windmill, 2 forests, and I don't know. You can probably explain it better, Matt. But there's choke points.
Yeah, there's a lot of choke
basically.
Points because there's 4 very large buildings and then maybe 2 other smaller buildings. There's 2 large pieces of forest, one of which is like almost smack dab in the middle of the board. And it looks like there's like between 4 and 6 inch choke points kind of all throughout the board. Yeah, lots of choke points on this board.
It sort of reminds me of Rainier's home country of Netherlands, because there's a windmill, there's like some sort of old houses, there's a forest.
Yes, for all the viewers that are out there, I got my dual citizenship and I'm ditching all of these Americans and joining Team Europe. So,
well, that saves us an awkward conversation about how we were going to drop you from the team. So
Well,
let's
Europe also is
be
not a
honest,
country,
Matt.
by the way.
I got citizenship because I was anticipating you guys dropping me.
Good move, Rainier.
All right.
Now the awkward conversation has to come from the Dutch guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Rainier, what happens when they don't accept you, and then you're looking to come back to us?
Then I'll join Ireland like you, Tim. I'll say my great grandfather was Irish.
So basically, what'll happen is we'll go over the armies real quick, and then me and Mick will see, based on the way that they describe their armies and how they would play the game, who we think would win the game. And if it's a tie, then you, the audience, will decide who will win this game. So I'm going to move over to Rainier. Rainier, what was your army for this week?
Okay, so according to Matt's reaction, we were both hoping for something like Contest of Champions or Lords of Battle. So I brought the Dark Lord Sauron himself.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yes. This list is actually semi-inspired by two Americans, Samir, who took something similar to Canada and just had fun with it, and you, Tim Hines. You played this at an all-hero list. What was it? At Nova.
Yeah.
And, this poor dude. That poor dude was
playing
against you.
Yes.
So basically, I was watching it. Tim dug up the relic, and the dude killed everything in Tim's army. And Tim was like, I'm not broken. You can't do anything. And he just couldn't kill Sauron. That's so sad.
So for anybody that doesn't know, at Nova, they have a Deadliest Heroes, and my favorite model in the game is Sauron, and I tend not to be able to use them, not because I don't want to, but I never can agree on a points that I'm happy with, so I would take him at Deadliest Heroes. And there was one year where I think it was Sauron, the Witch King on Fell Beast. I don't remember the points or anything like that, but then it was, I believe, the Undying on Fell Beast and a Troll Chieftain for 1,000 points. And I mean, he brought like the absolute it was about, I think it was a bunch of dwarves and like elves and all that kind of thing. He had like 10, 12 models, but it was Seize the Prize, and I picked it up with Sauron on the first turn, and the game must have gone on for 20 turns of him causing a wound. Nope, reroll, and this was back before you had to roll for every single wound, so you just had to roll one wound, and he was fine. So I just kept basically staying in the middle, holding the prize, just turn after turn after turn. He did a wound, rolled a 2+, boom, kept going on, next turn. And it was just such a funny game when that happened, because Sauron basically just held the prize the entire game, and then the game ended.
It was pretty sad.
But Rainier, so you move on. So Sauron?
Okay, so I got the Dark Lord Sauron himself. He's accompanied by 2 Black Numenorians on foot, 11 orcs with picks, and 3 orcs with spear. My second warband is his lieutenant, the Witch King on not on Fell Beast, excuse me, the Witch King. He has a horse, the Morgul crown, 3 might, 15 will, and 2 fate. The Witch King is accompanied by 10 orcs with pike, 3 orcs with spear, a war drum, and a warg rider. The warg rider is just bear by himself.
I'm sorry, did you say 10 orcs with pike?
With pick, sorry, excuse me.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Yeah. I make up my own rules. And then my third warband is just an orc captain on a warg. So my total is 30. I have 34 models, 8 might, 2 big boys, of course, is Sauron. I'll go through his stats when we play the game out. The Witch King on horse, who's basically kitted pretty well, and basic troops. I have 1 warg rider, a drum, who I put in the Witch King's warband so I can Broke March. The Witch King keep up with him pretty well because he's on a horse, so he can keep up with the warband as it's going pretty fast. I have an orc. The orc warg captain has 2 might, so he's there for basically marches and heroic moves. So yeah, it's straightforward kind of in a way, but we'll go through it as the game unfolds.
Okay, Matt, what is your 800-point list?
Well, so I'm now confident, having actually heard what his list is because of the scenario, as you'll see in a moment. So, Warband 1. This is a Fangorn list. Warband 1, Treebeard. Warband 2, Beach Bone. Warband 3, Quick Beam. Warband 4 is an ally, Gwahir. Warband 5, Tom Bombadil. So, I have a total of 5 figures, 12 might, which can be up to a potential of 27 might with Tom Bombadil. All heroes, everybody's got 3 might, and what this army does is it goes around, it blocks up choke points, and then it kills everything in front of it. And if somebody gets into trouble, Tom comes over and casts his spell and erases the spell that. And when Tom casts his spell, just so the way this works, I know people don't use Tom Bombadil a lot, you get Refreshing Song. And he does this on a 2+. His range is 3 inches. And a single friendly model instantly regains a single lost wound, a single expended point of each might, will, and fate, and immediately recovers from the effects of any magical power. So he is not only a might generator, he is a will and fate generator, and is going to make all of these heroes very, very difficult to kill. And Tom also is a roadblock because nobody can get within an inch of him. He also has Banish, so that will be useful against both the Witch King and Sauron. And he causes all models within 6 inches of him to automatically pass courage tests. The problem, obviously, I'm going to have with this list is plugging up all of the choke points to stop the orcs from running off of the board. Which is why I didn't want Reconnoiter. But if I got in Contest of Champions, I'd be all set. Because this list, I played this list last weekend, actually, and tore apart Sauron. Well, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so I'm going to roll a die to see who deploys first, and they will let you know how they would deploy. So Matt will be deploying first. So Matt, where would you like to deploy?
So I think...
Oh, real quick before we start, a lot of the houses have removable roofs. Are we allowed to go through them?
No.
Are you counting the trees as terrain or difficult terrain?
No. Why wouldn't you allow us to go through the houses, just out of curiosity?
Because then it sucks.
But based on an objective, like
I suppose you can go through them. Fine.
Thank you. As a lawyer, I was a lawyer. I was going to be like, that's a bad argument because it sucks. Give me something solid.
Well, the doors are locked.
The doors are locked. Can't get in. Those are private homes. They're posted as no trespassing.
Just so everybody knows, in case they need a refresher on recon. So basically, you get 3 points if you have more models off your opponent's board edge. If you have twice as many, you get 5 points, and if you have 3 times as many, you get 7 points. You get 1 victory point for causing a wound on the enemy leader, 2 if you kill them. Good luck with that, Matt. You score 1 victory point if your force is broken, 3 if you're broken and unbroken. And basically, for deployment, they roll a die. On a 1 to 3, they can deploy. On a 1 to 3, the warband does not arrive, but they receive a +1 for the next turn. And if they roll a 4 to 6, they choose a point on their board edge, at least 6 inches from a corner, and they all have to fit in there. So basically, they roll to come onto the board edge. So what I can do is I can roll a die to see each turn if the warbands arrive, if you guys want, or if you want to just keep it more simplistic, we can just say that. Let's pretend that they've all arrived. So what would you guys like to do? Would you like me to roll a die for each warband each turn, or do you want to just pretend as if everybody's just on the board for this scenario?
Up to you, man.
So okay. I mean, we don't need to go through it necessarily. I mean, obviously, I think one of my best hopes is that Sauron, or who has the drum? The Witch King's warband? So I mean, obviously, I want that warband to show up later. But who knows how that goes. I mean, as far as side of the board goes, I think I'm going to take the near side of the board as we're looking at it here, since the terrain seems to be clustered a little more on the far side of the board. And the house that it looks like you could run through most effectively is on the far side of the board. So I think I have a little better access to choke points if I come on the near side of the board.
So you deploy first. What would be your move in the game?
So I think I have to come on warband by warband, but on the plus side, I can really spend as much might as I want to make sure that I come on. I want to come on as early as possible. I think the Ents and Tom Bombadil kind of go straight up the center because that big clump of woods in the center isn't going to slow me down at all, and I can go right through it and react as I need to.
And you said how many Ents were there?
There's Tree Bear, there's Beachbone, and there's Quickbeam. So I've got 3 Ents. And then Gwei here, I think, also comes on in the center and goes whichever way, either to the right or the left as necessary, since he can fly and intercept the Witch King if he wants to, or block off. Maybe there's a small choke point on the left-hand side of the board that I can throw him in to block if you try and go around that way, or he can go to the right side of that other house and block that if you try and go around that way. But basically, I'm going to be kind of marching from the start, quick beam, and I'm going to get the Ents up as close as I can, just try and kill stuff, get Gwei here off the board, and hope that we time out before the rest of your orcs get the rest of the way over the board.
Okay, and then so you have 5 models. That is.
Yeah.
And then how much is Tom's range of all his shenanigans?
Depending on which these shenanigans are, it's between 3 and 6 inches.
Which one's the 3?
So 3 inches is his refreshing song spell, and also his kind of bubble of thou shalt not pass. And then 6 inches is his banishment spell, and also his benefit to courage.
Sounds good. All right.
One advantage I have is that I can, because Quick Beam has a march and Quick Beam can move 8 inches too. I've got guys that can go, I've got trees that can go between 9 and 11 inches, and way here that can go 17 inches if I need them to.
Yeah. Okay. So makes sense. For starters, I think that's good. You put them all in the middle. For those who can see the board, I'm not really worried about the left side because I don't think you throw away one Ent all the way to the left to get to the edge of that big tower. I would deploy my stuff in the center. Your banishment spell, to be honest, doesn't really scare me because both Sauron and the Witch King get, what is it? Let me check real quick. They basically get 2 free will points to roll to resist. They both have resistance to magic, and they both have 1 free spell a turn. So
why does the Witch King get resistant to magic?
The Witch King is not resistant.
Yeah, I don't.
He gets a reroll with a crown.
Reroll. There we go. That's the one.
Yeah, you get to reroll with the crown.
And
Okay.
just Witch King doesn't get a free will each turn, does he?
No, the Witch. Excuse me.
But again, he gets a reroll with a crown.
Yeah, he gets
That-
he definitely gets yeah.
Okay, so back to the reroll one. Okay, so he has the reroll and 3 might, 2 fate. So I'm not quite scared of the banishment. Sauron too. I'm not. Sauron does, in fact, have. Let me just make check. Resistant and a free will per turn. So that doesn't scare me too much. What does scare me is your kind of clump of models. The 4 that is, and then Gwahir, of course, you have a lot of range. What I would do is I would just spread like crazy. I'd send them all in the center, and I would I'd just drum the drums. And let me get this right, guys. If I drum the drums, I don't have to stay within 6 inches at the end. It's just where they start, correct?
Right.
Yeah, 12 inches from where they started.
Yeah, so I just spread them. And this big tower right here played in it. You can go through it. So I would even send them through it, and I would just spread to the 4 corners and basically force you to take either, whether that be quick beam or Guahir, and try to defend it. I'm not too scared about you getting many models off. I think at the most you'll get one or two. And Sauron actually, people forget that he's actually a casting beast. My spells are all 18 inches, up to 24 if I move him, with his 6-inch movement. So if you bring Guahir, maybe Guahir because he has will, but if you have any of the Ents or Guahir out of that bubble of Tom Bombadil, I would try shenanigans with him and the Witch King casting compel, or to get them out of the way just to distribute it. I would throw my captain. My drum, I wouldn't keep him with Sauron towards the end of the game. I would keep him around where everyone is. I keep him with Sauron at first so Guahir doesn't assassinate him. But I would distribute him with the troops so they could spread out. My captain, I'd do the same. I'd keep him out of Guahir's 12-inch range and keep in the back line so I can either heroic march when I have a chance to throw more models. So as I see here, I have 34 models, which isn't too much, but you have to bring Sauron to 2 wounds to actually break me, so I'm not afraid that they're going to run. So I would just spread them all out. And if you spread yours out, I would just compel them, or even Chill Soul, because I have Chill Soul. I could wound Quick Beam, or the other one, or even try to Chill Soul Guahir. And I understand that you could get all that stuff back with Tom Bombadil, but Tom Bombadil still it's that bubble that I'm going to try to avoid in a way. Yeah, very straightforward. We're both going to try to stop each other.
Matt, you said Tom Bombadil, he does the might, the will, and the fate, correct?
Yep.
But do you have any ability to prevent wounds?
Oh yeah, he recovers a wound when he does that too.
Oh, you can prevent wounds with that as well.
Yeah. So what happens is, if he Chill Souls, say, one of my trees spends 1 will to try and stop the spell. If that doesn't work and he wounds me, then I spend 1 fate to try and avoid the wound. If I roll a 4+, I'm fine. If I roll a 3+, then I spend 1 might to increase that fate. If that doesn't work, then I take a wound. And if none of those things work, then the next turn, Tom casts his spell on a 2+ at that guy, and he gets back the wound, the might, the will, and the fate. So I'm not terribly scared about Chill Soul. That's basically kind of waste.
Yeah, I think I'd use more compels. If any one of them were out of it, I'd compel them back. And if you kept them in a solid all with Tom Bombadil, I'm just afraid. I don't know. That's still 48 inches of a board that even with the block and choking points, I can go through some of these houses to get through.
Yeah, I mean, my real problem is going to be if you can get guys around the outside. I think what I try and do is the 3 trees and Tom Bombadil go straight for Sauron and just try and take him out of the game. And they can actually do that. I mean, the game I played last week, I was doing like 4 or 5 wounds to Sauron.
I trust that, but I would tilt Sauron to the right a little more. So if you did do that, then he's 12 inches from the right hand side, and I've got 36 inches to the left that you basically have to cover with.
Yeah, I think I have to use Guahir basically to kind of zip around and kill orcs that are trying to march past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's and I think I can probably do that in such a way that Guahir is probably going to be safe from Sauron's spells.
What would you do about the Witch King, just out of curiosity?
Well, Guahir either fights the Witch King or it depends kind of what you do with the Witch King. If you send the Witch King away from Sauron, then I think Guahir takes him on, or but if you get anywhere near the Ents with the Witch King, the Ents will kind of take the Witch King apart if they get in. Because remember, I can all my guys with the exception of Quick Beam can strike. and all of my guys are fight 8, with the exception of Quick Beam, who's fight 7. So the Witch King's got to really think twice about going in against any of these guys, especially since I can freely use might to up whatever my rolls are to whatever I need.
Yeah, and I don't think the crown really works in the aspect that I'm going to play the Witch King aggressively. I think I would see this right portion over here, put the Witch King with Sauron, and force you to bring Bombadil there. If you don't bring, and then of course I have one Warg Rider, which isn't much, but I have a Warg Rider, a War Captain with 2 might that can heroic march, and a drummer, and I would just spread with the other 36 inches coming forward. If you moved Quick Beam or anyone to go help or potentially stop, of course I'd space them out too, where if you heroic combat, you kill 2 people instead of like a whole bunch. But if you did space any of them out, even if it's one, Sauron's 18-inch cast, and then even the Witch King with his horse can cast up to 22 inches, I would just compel to use the will as much as I could, compel them out of the way or compel them.
Yeah, I think what ends up happening is my 3 Ents and Tom kind of go after the right to take on Sauron and the Witch King, and then Gwahir just kind of hangs back and picks off the orcs that are trying to go down the other side. And if you try and bring Sauron or the Witch King back around toward the other side, then the trees and Tom follow them and get in closer. And they can't. I mean, remember, they're covering 9 inches a turn, so they're actually going to be at you fairly quick.
I see that, but I don't know. My thing is like my guys with the drum are going to be covering 9 inches also, and I think
they are. You're going to
hear even.
Yeah, you're going to have a big advantage. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to engage all the leakers, so I think this.
Yeah, and even my fear of you killing or getting to the Sauron, you'd have to commit almost everything to do it. And I think I don't know. I think I'm going to get off quite a few people by the time you do that with the speed. Of course, that's because I'm like biased and I want to win this match. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, it depends kind of how many of the orcs I can get. If I can get, how many figures do you have? You have 30 figures, so I got to kill like 14 orcs?
34.
34. Okay, yeah, so I got to kill a bunch of orcs.
And I also don't break. I don't break until you reduce Sauron to 2 wounds.
Yeah, but once I kill half the orcs, if Sauron's on his own against the 3 trees, I'm going to bring him down to half his wounds in 1 turn. Once I can get him trapped in between a bunch of those guys, he'll go to, I can break him in 1 turn, but it's just, the question is, can I actually get half of your orcs before at least some of them run off the board, or we kind of time out? And that's going to be a tough ask, is getting half of those dispersed orcs before they get off the board. I don't think, given the board, I'm not certain that's impossible, but I think it is a tough ask.
I'd agree with you, given the board. And for viewers that can't see, like, it is quite choky in many aspects. And even the trees that like aren't open terrain or are not open terrain, even the trees like are going to be a tough one for me.
All right, Mick, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I've just been counting a few things. So looking at the victory conditions, if Rainier gets 10 to 14 orcs off, then he cannot lose the game, because he's going to score 5 victory points, which even if he gets broken and Sauron dies, it's going to be enough for a draw. So to me, it's just a question of, are you able to get off at least 10 orcs? And if you're able to get off 15 to ensure at least 7 victory points. Yeah, so looking at this from that perspective, the fact that you don't break is like a major thing, I think, because if you were able to break, then I can see Matt breaking you very quickly. Pretty much as soon as combat starts, if he manages to get into like a couple of orcs with like each tree and Gwahir, then you're broken in like turn and a half to 2 turns. But the fact that you don't break is really, really annoying. But I still think, so it's going to take you, let's say, 8 turns if you were to be moving at full speed in order to get off the board. How many combats would
And
we be
are you
expecting
including
within the time?
the drum and the captain in that?
Well, no. I'm just including a situation where, let's say, you're sort of going in different directions, because like your drum can't cover the entire board. So wherever your drum goes, that's probably where Gwahir is going in order to snatch the drum.
Gwahir kills the drum first. Yes.
Yeah. And the same with our captain. Obviously, at that point, your captain is probably going in a completely different direction after the drum, unless you want to stack up heroic marches and drum together. So it's just a case of, can you get off 15 models off the board before your army dies? And that would really depend on so many factors here. Even if you're moving at full speed with the drum, then that's still 6 turns that you would need, because five turns would give you 45 inches of movement. So you still have 6 turns at least to get off if you were just moving in a straight line with the drum. So I think a couple of good turns of combat, and you may not have enough orcs to actually run off in order to score the full 7 victory points. So I would be actually inclined to say that if you manage to get 10 off, then it's probably going to be a draw, because you might just be able to, well, Matt might just be able to kill Sauron. But if you do manage to get, it's tricky, because if, let's say,
now what if I played Sauron conservatively though?
Well, eventually Sauron is going to have to get into combat, and if you're broken and you've suffered 3 wounds, then your army breaks. At that point, your orcs that are just about to reach the edge, most of them won't reach the edge. Or in fact, if let's say your army broke after, when you're still like 13, 14 inches away, chances are none of your orcs are actually gonna reach it. So yeah, I think it's pretty close. Even though my initial thought was, okay, this is game over on turn 1, Rainier wins. But now I'm actually thinking it would be quite close, I think.
There is also a problem. There's also a problem with the drum, in that when you beat the drum, nobody within 12 inches of it can charge, which can.
Yeah, I don't think I would really charge with them in general, though. Your army's basically terror.
If you're keeping the drum near the Witch King and Sauron to keep it safe, that is going to cause.
I don't think I'd do. I would put, like I said, the Witch King and Sauron to the right of the board, the drum and the other guy to the left, and I would just spread it. And I even built my army. I gave everybody picks. None of them have shields, because just in case Recon Order came, like, they're just bodies.
Yeah,
like they're just gonna run for it, go through the buildings, go for wherever. And I understand that eventually the drum will die, eventually the captain will die, but the idea of using their resources until they die, okay, I'm not going to let the captain die with 1 might or 2 might. And even the idea of Gwahir, if he goes after, say, the drum, he's going to be still within range of the really far casting of combo of Sauron and the Witch King. And I think I can get him down to the will to where he's going to rely on Tom Bombadil. If he relies on Tom Bombadil, no one's going to be contesting the orcs. If he doesn't rely on Tom Bombadil, I'm not going to cast anything at quick beam in the ends, because I know it's not going to work. So I would get Gwahir out of the way, or even waste 1 or 2 turns in the game from my casting. I think would make a big difference.
I mean, I guess I'm a little skeptical about how well, if you're separating the drum and Sauron, how well you can protect him, because especially if you've got dispersed orcs, because all Gwahir needs to do is charge into a random orc somewhere, call a heroic combat, a random orc within 12 inches of the drummer, call a heroic combat, and jump the drummer.
There's actually another thing where the fact that you cannot charge means that your drummer is moving forward, your orcs are moving forward, and then if Gwaihir is nearby, you can't even put a model onto him to then block him and run around with everything else. You're basically just like allowing Gwaihir to do whatever he wants.
Yeah, that being said, like I wouldn't just like I'd position him. You know what I mean? Like when we talked to in our last round with Devin, like a horde with any model, like you have to treat your warriors just as you would position a hero. Everything counts. You pre-check how far Gwaihir is and so forth. You protect people not only from this turn but the next 2 turns in case heroic combat happens or heroic move off happens. But I totally understand that.
Just out of curiosity, I don't see any doors. All right, so I'm just the way I'm looking at this map, I'm gonna say that north is the side facing away from me, south is the side facing toward me, just so it's easier to reference. There's a big tower on the left-hand side of the board that looks like it's about 8 inches wide, and there's only a 4-inch gap on the other side of it. I don't see any doors on the south side of that tower that you could move through. Is there something special about that I don't understand?
No, but I could pop out from the east or the west.
Yeah.
With them, and same with the windmill. The windmill, we're seeing the northern part of the windmill has an entrance. I could pop out of the north and end in the south.
Yeah.
Even if it's 1 orc cover from Gwaihir quick beam.
Yeah.
It's
so this actually has interesting. I mean, if you went that intended strategy where you're going to try and slip by on the west side as opposed to the east side, I think I may actually be able to deal with that just because that one tower is a big choke point.
Oh, to be honest, I would try to slip by on all sides.
Yeah, but if your drummer's over on the left-hand side, it's a lot slower if you're doing it on the right.
Yeah, but I could keep my drummer central.
And since I don't care if it goes woods right in the middle, I'm just going to plop the tree and run the trees right through all that stuff.
Can I just ask one question? So I'm just reading the objectives again, and I'm just thinking. So let's say we're assuming that if Rainier manages to get 15 models through, he wins. But if let's say he only manages to get 6 or 7 models, he still scores the 7 victory points unless you manage to
unless
move
I get somebody
off.
off. Yeah, I mean that's the problem I have.
Who you're gonna have to move off? Because that's the thing, like.
I mean,
you can't really move off all 5 because at that point you don't get reduced into 25%. So realistically, he needs to get these at least 8 off to draw or 12 to win.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering who you'd be most keen on moving off first in what order.
So, I mean, I think what I have to do, right, is I'm going to be. Based on the way he said he's going to fight Sauron, he's going to keep Sauron hanging back. So I'm going to be going all the way across the board to get him. And then, towards the end of the game, when I'm about to time out, is when I send Gwaihir, as long as he's within 12 inches of the edge of the board, he runs off. And as long as Quick Beam is within 11 inches of the edge of the board, he can call a march and run off too if he wants to. But what I'm hoping I can do is kill a bunch of orcs on the way in, kill half the orcs, get into Sauron, do 3 wounds to Sauron so that everything else runs away. And at that point, hopefully I'm near enough to the edge of the board that I can send maybe 2 or 3 guys off. Reduce the number of points that Rainier is going to get by getting guys leaking through.
Yeah, and when I say I'm going to play defensive with Sauron, I don't think I would really chill in the back, if that makes sense, because it's basically giving you a free pass to break me and get off the board. I think my main hope would to be just come at you like that. You know what I mean?
So, Mick, who are you going to go with?
So I think Rainier is slightly favorite, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was a draw. So yeah, that's my final thoughts, I guess. I would say something like I don't know, 60-40 of Rainier wins or is a draw. And then maybe there is a small percentage times when Matt wins too, but I think it's more likely to draw than Matt winning.
I have a question for Rainier. So I know you said you kind of use Sauron defensively. Does that mean you're saving the might to keep him alive?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Because I feel like Matt's only option to win this game is in a way to treat it like Lords of Battle. He has to break me and wound or kill Sauron, because that's where a lot of the victory points are going to come from, to either tie me or prevent me from getting my guys off. So yeah, I would. That's what I mean when I say play defensively. I mean, like, I'm going to reserve his might for that. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if you were just like running away with Sauron and having Matt chase you.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by this east part. Like, I treat it like a football game. Sauron's got the football, and I'd be running like defensively, as in like I don't want to charge Sauron at Bombadil and all the Ents and be like, here we go, boy, like he's gonna die. But I'd be productive with the defensive position by like he's still moving on the mid-east part of the board with the potential of going west or east, depending on where the big clunk of guys go. And yeah, with some orcs too. So if he's not engaged, some orcs are still going to try to walk off on that side.
So what I really want to have happen, and I would consider this a victory if it happened at any point, is if at some point like Sauron and a bunch of orcs charge in against one of the trees, I win the combat, and then I use Sauron as the bludgeon and just go, dead orc, dead orc, dead orc, dead orc.
Yeah.
Kind of picking up Sauron by the leg and then smashing orcs with it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's something that made me think about. So let's say Matt's obviously going to call heroic strikes every turn to try to kill Sauron, of course. If for whatever reason Rainier won one of the fights, and let's say there were 2 or 3 guys on him, he could set them on fire with his attack, and then they do a strength 9 damage every single turn.
They do a strength 9 on the first turn and then a strength 5 afterwards.
Oh, it's strength 5 afterwards. Okay, I apologize. So I mean, that if that happened, and theoretically, you got the damage to work. I mean, that could be just wait over time, and then they'll kill themselves, kind of a thing. Because there's no water on the map, so there's no way for them to be set. Now you can drop them on the ground if I'm correct. And
they can just lay down.
They can just lay down. Okay, so
And question: the Bombadils has the ability to regain fate and wounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so it's. I mean, what you're going to do if you set me on fire is you're probably going to do 1 wound to me.
Oh no, that wouldn't make sense. But like, what defense are the Ents?
8.
And they have one fate.
Treebeard has 3, and Beachbone and Quickbeam each have 1.
Yeah, so I could potentially 3 wounds. Yeah, I could potentially still kill one of them outright with my 4 attacks.
Yeah,
and spend a might.
It's a tough ask because I do have the 1 fate, which I can put as much might behind as I probably.
Yeah, but I'd require 4s with 4 rolls, and I could potentially might one up and kill 1 outright.
Would you try to do multiple strikes a turn, or just 1 and hope you match the 9?
Generally, 1 will do it because my guys are fight 8 in the first place. So as long as if I roll anything but a 1, I'm gonna take it. Well, actually. And even if I roll a 1, we're probably going to be tied because Sauron's not going to be countered.
Yeah. Okay.
You're virtually always winning the fights because even if you're just calling 1 strike, you're then regaining might with Tom anyway. So you have a free strike every turn.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm always calling strikes.
Now I have a question. How fast does Tom go?
6 inches, but he's not slowed by any terrain.
Okay, that's good.
And he still benefits from the heroic march. So Quickbeam's calling a march, so he's moving 9 inches along with the other trees.
It would almost be worth spending all of your will points on trying to sap his will instead of doing anything else.
Oh, you can't
cast any spells on top.
Yeah, you can't.
Nick, I had that thought like 20 minutes ago. I was like, wait, you could just kill him by sapping his... Nope, can't target him with magic.
No.
Yep. I mean, the other thing I can do if I want to is if I can get Tom kind of near Sauron, I can just have Tom move into Sauron every turn and nullify him and just use the trees to kill everything else around him too.
All right, so I'm going to have one more question, then I'll decide. Matt, he said he was going to put the drum on the left and his heroes on the right. How are you going to deal with that?
Well, the trees and Tom are heading straight up the middle where they could go wherever they need to, and Way here is going to go hunting the drum. And what he's going to do is he's going to find some random orc that he's spread out within 12 inches of the drum. He's going to go into to him, call her out combat, and then jump on the drum. And if he keeps,
I'm gonna prevent that because I know what Gwahir does.
Yeah, but I'm not sure you can prevent that. Given, first of all, that there's that one wood sitting right in the middle of the left, and if you're in a bit of a dilemma, right, where you have to either
I could put the drum in either the red house or the tower though.
See, that's what I was thinking. Is you put him in the tower, he'll still be within 12 inches, and then I
could put him anywhere in the tower.
So inside the tower. Yeah, I guess if you have the ability to get him up and run him in the tower, then you can do that.
And I mean the first floor because there's a gate on the other side, so I could just run him through inside the first level of the tower, like it's open.
I may be able to get Gwahir into him before he gets into the tower, depending on how the deployment rolls come out.
Isn't it the case in the films that trees destroy buildings? So could potentially have some of them. They
could, but in my opinion, each tree that's given to like stop it, I'm just gonna magic him if he's outside of what's his face. I'm gonna like pour magic in because that's the only real magic that I can use is whoever's going after my orcs. And that said too, like I feel if you're doing that, you're not really committing anyone to go off the board edge. So even if I get one or two guys off the board edge would still double you if you didn't commit Gwahir to go like off the board.
Now, you know what? This brings up an interesting point, which I'm going to ask both of you, and then I'll make my decision. So I know that in like siege battles, for example, they'll have like this wall has X amount of. Do you guys think that in match play, even though it doesn't happen almost ever, that buildings like this should have hit points? So theoretically, if Rainier got his guy, Matt could go, I'm going to destroy the building. So then it kind of gives Matt a chance to kill the drummer. Or do you think that shouldn't be allowed?
That could be fun.
I think it'd be fun. I'd allow it. I don't think it'd make much of a difference because
I'm not saying that most people would ever even remotely use it. But in this situation where let's say he wants to kill. Maybe Matt decides, I'm going to go attack the building and take that out, and then it's not an option anymore.
I think it makes sense, but he would still have to commit a whole Ent or Gwahir.
Oh, I understand. I understand completely. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if that. Do you guys think that should be included more in tournaments it's an option? It's not like it takes away from anything. It just kind of gives somebody another possibility that maybe they need to destroy that building because a certain person's up there and they can't get them.
Yeah, I think it'd be
as
really
the guy that's playing Ansem
wholeheartedly
in favor of it.
Yeah, they should too, because you can have like ruffians like burn down buildings and do crazy stuff. Yeah. So I think it'd be awesome to be like an Ents like, this building, I don't like it. Boom, get out of my way.
I mean, that could be an interesting thing to see that more in tournaments.
You could sorry.
No, I think it'd be more interesting to see that in more tournaments going forward. But what were you going to say, Mick?
No, I was going to say that you could have these bases which have the same dimensions as the base of the building, and then if you destroyed it, you just replace it with a base which counts as a difficult terrain.
That'd be interesting, like a rubble kind of thing. So it would require the TO to have more stuff available. But I suppose if they were okay with doing it, you just have a bunch of rubble terrain waiting, and then you call the TO over and ask them to replace it, I suppose, further.
I mean, you could even just put the buildings on bases and then take off the building, and then the entire base counts as difficult terrain suddenly.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah. So I think overall I'm going to have to go with Rainier on this. I just think all he has to do, like Mick says, is get like 10 guys off, and I think he'd be able to get 10 guys off. And then, so I think but what I love about doing this section each week is that I always think I have a favorite going into it. And then the other person just says all these great things that really make me go, oh gosh, I don't know if I can go with my favorite anymore, because I just think that's such a good point. And it's always really interesting to hear these, because you get two people where I think not necessarily it would be, I think at the beginning most people would agree that Rainier kind of has that advantage, just because Matt only has 5 models in a scenario where you're trying to get as many off the board as possible. But it's really interesting that Matt really makes it sound like, you know, if things worked out his way, he actually really could win this. But I think I'm going to go with Rainier on this one, just slightly. But Matt, really, really well done, and really almost convincing me to go with you, to be fair.
Imagine if this had been Lords of Battle.
or Contest of Champions. I was like, Contester Lords, and now I'm like, thank goodness.
Actually, there's another thing to add. Like Recon, you can win it with all hero armies. Like I've played all hero armies where you just break your opponents and everything starts running away, and you run off with a couple of models, and you win like 10-0 or something like that.
Oh, by all means, especially
it's doable.
I've seen people play Goblin Town at Reconnoiter and not get one model off.
Yeah,
like it's quite possible to stop, especially Matt. Like Matt, if I came against Matt with that list, this scenario on this table, I would be so scared. Like, to be honest.
If right here, if you didn't have Sauron, then I would have said Matt might actually probably win.
Yeah,
but since you do have Sauron, that I think that flips it.
I think my strategy may be to get 1 wound on Sauron and then go to the bathroom and never come back.
Okay,
but you got to get 2 wounds on Sauron, though. 2 wounds.
No, I just need one. The 1 point.
Oh yeah,
he just needs the point.
Oh,
yeah, he just needs the point. All right. Well, let us know in the comment section below who you think won. You guys are the ones who are going to decide who wins this one. Leave any lists that you have for us to review for future episodes. And if you want to hear us talk about anything particular that you think would be interesting to listen to, let us know that in the comment section below as well. And we look forward to seeing you next week.